The television cameras captured something that would break the internet within hours. Ashley Morgan, a 28-year-old woman dripping in designer labels from head to toe, strutted into Judge Judy's courtroom with the kind of confidence that could only come from years of playing the system without consequence. Her Louis Vuitton purse swung deliberately as she walked. Her Gucci sunglasses perched perfectly on her highlighted hair, and her Christian Louboutin heels clicked against the courtroom floor like a countdown to her own destruction. She was suing her ex-boyfriend for $50,000 in emotional damage after a 3-month relationship. And she genuinely believed she was about to collect the easiest payday of her career. What Ashley didn't know was that Judge Judy had spent the previous night digging through court records, tax documents, and legal databases. What she didn't know was that the 4 words Judge Judy would say in exactly 8 minutes would expose the most calculated gold digger scheme in courtroom, television history, and potentially send her to prison for fraud. Before we dive into this absolutely insane case, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to witness will restore your faith in justice and prove that karma doesn't just exist, it has perfect timing. Smash the like button if you're ready to see the most entitled gold digger in America get absolutely destroyed by a judge who had been waiting her entire career for this exact moment. Comment gold digger if you think this is the most outrageous lawsuit you've ever heard. Because trust me, it only gets worse from here. Ashley Morgan wasn't born a scammer, but by age 28, she had perfected the art of weaponizing relationships for profit. She had dated 12 wealthy men in the past 5 years, and not a single relationship had lasted longer than 4 months. This wasn't because Ashley was unlucky in love. This was because Ashley had discovered a loophole in the legal system that had made her nearly $1 million, and she had turned emotional manipulation into a full-time business. Her Instagram showed a lifestyle of luxury, expensive restaurants, designer shopping trips, and exotic vacations. But what her 10,000 followers didn't know was that every single photo, every single story, every single post was funded by settlements from men she had deliberately targeted, dated just long enough to create documentation, and then sued for emotional damage the moment she sensed their bank accounts were tapped out. Her pattern was so refined, it was almost impressive in its calculated cruelty. She would browse dating apps specifically filtering for men in high-income professions: lawyers, tech executives, successful entrepreneurs. She would swipe right only on profiles that showed signs of recent heartbreak or divorce, men who were vulnerable and desperate for genuine connection. Ashley would love bomb them with an intensity that felt like destiny, talking about marriage within weeks, discussing future children, creating an emotional dependency that made them feel like they had finally found their soulmate after years of loneliness. She would insist on expensive dates while carefully documenting every gift, every dinner, every promise made in the heat of new romance. Then, somewhere between month 2 and month 4, right when these men were considering proposing or moving in together, Ashley would suddenly break up with them via text message. 2 days later, they would be served with lawsuit papers claiming severe emotional distress, financial manipulation, and broken promises that had left her traumatized and unable to work. Most of these men settled immediately. The embarrassment of having their private relationship details aired in court, combined with legal fees that would exceed the settlement amount, made paying Ashley's demands the path of least resistance. She knew this. She counted on it. She had refined her demands to hit the sweet spot where settlement was cheaper than fighting, typically landing between $20,000 and $40,000 per victim. Over 5 years, she had collected $247,000 in settlements that she reported to the IRS as consulting fees, paying taxes on her fraud as if it were legitimate business income. Ashley had even hired an accountant who specialized in adult entertainment workers and sugar babies, people who understood how to categorize relationship-derived income in ways that wouldn't trigger audits. But today was supposed to be her biggest score yet. Michael Chen, A 35-year-old software engineer who had recently gone through a devastating divorce had been the perfect target. Ashley had found him on a dating app 3 months ago, noticed his profile mentioned healing from heartbreak, and immediately saw dollar signs. She had played him perfectly, or so she thought. Within 2 weeks, she was talking about their future together. Within a month, she was asking for loans to cover emergency expenses that always seemed to arise at convenient times. Within 3 months, she had accumulated enough text messages, photos, and documentation to build what she believed was an airtight case for $50,000 in emotional damage. Then she dumped him via text, claiming he wasn't financially stable enough for her future plans, and served him with papers. 48 hours later, Michael Chen sat in the plaintiff's chair, looking like a man who had been hit by a truck he never saw coming. His modest button-down shirt and nervous demeanor stood in stark contrast to Ashley's designer armor, and the confusion on his face was genuine and heartbreaking. He had thought he found real love after the devastation of his divorce. He had opened his heart to someone he believed was authentic, vulnerable, and building a future with him. Instead, he'd been targeted by a professional predator who had studied his weaknesses like a serial killer studies victim patterns. The legal fees alone had already cost him $8,000, and he was facing the possibility of losing $50,000 more to a woman who had calculated his destruction from the moment she swiped right on his profile. He had brought evidence, carefully organized folders of text messages, receipts, and a timeline that showed Ashley's true intentions. But he had no idea that Judge Judy had already compiled evidence that would make his documentation look like kindergarten homework, compared to a doctoral dissertation. Judge Judy opened the case with her signature no-nonsense approach, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed the complaint with the kind of expression that veteran viewers recognized as barely containing disgust. "Miss Morgan, you're suing Mr. Chen for $50,000 claiming emotional damage, broken promises, and severe trauma that has left you unable to work. Tell me about this relationship." Ashley's performance began immediately, and it was a masterclass in manufactured victimhood. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue she had prepared in advance, her voice taking on a trembling quality that would have won awards in community theater. "Your Honor, Michael and I had something beautiful, something real. He pursued me relentlessly, made me believe we were building a life together." The text messages told a story that contradicted everything Ashley had claimed in her opening statement. Judge Judy read aloud from the screenshots, her voice dripping with barely concealed contempt. "Miss Morgan, according to these messages, you were the one who initiated conversations about expensive restaurants. Here's a text from you saying, if you really cared about me, you would want to take me to nice places. And here's another one saying, my ex always treated me like a princess. I hope you're not one of those cheap guys, Michaels." Face showed the pain of someone reliving calculated manipulation while Ashley shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Her designer purse clutched tighter as her confidence began to crack. Judge Judy continued reading, each message more damning than the last. "Here's a text where you asked Michael for $2,000 for rent because your paycheck was delayed. Here's another asking for $1,500 for car repairs. Here's one asking for $800 for emergency vet bills. Mr. Chen has receipts showing he paid all of these amounts. Did you ever pay him back, Miss Morgan?" Ashley's voice took on an edge of defensiveness that replaced her earlier performance. "Those weren't loans, Your Honor. Those were gifts from someone who claimed to love me. When you love someone, you help them without expecting repayment. That's what partners do." Judge Judy removed her glasses and fixed Ashley with a stare that had made seasoned attorneys reconsider their career choices. "So gifts that you solicited through emotional manipulation. Gifts that you requested by creating emergencies. Gifts that coincidentally stopped being necessary the moment you ended the relationship." Ashley made her fatal mistake then, allowing arrogance to override her victim act. Your Honor, clearly. You've never been emotionally manipulated by a man who creates expectations and then fails to deliver on them. Maybe you don't understand modern dating dynamics. But when a man takes you to expensive places and buys you things, he's making implicit promises about the lifestyle he's going to provide. Michael knew exactly what he was doing. He created expectations that I would be taken care of. And then he abandoned me emotionally while I had restructured my entire life around his promises. Ashley actually rolled her eyes as she said this, a gesture so entitled that the courtroom audience audibly gasped. Judge Judy's expression shifted into something viewers recognized as the calm before a Category 5 hurricane. Miss Morgan, let me understand your position. You believe that accepting expensive dates and gifts from someone you dated for 3 months entitles you to $50,000 when that relationship ends. Ashley doubled down with the confidence of someone who had run this play 6 times before. It's not about the relationship ending, Your Honor. It's about the emotional trauma of having your life plans destroyed by someone who manipulated you into believing in a future that never existed. I'm claiming $5,000 for therapy costs, $15,000 for lost income because I've been too depressed to work, and $30,000 for the emotional damage of time wasted and trust destroyed. These are legitimate damages recognized by courts across the country. Judge Judy leaned forward with predatory patience. Miss Morgan, you mentioned this isn't your first difficult relationship. Tell me about your previous experiences with men who have emotionally damaged you. Ashley, thinking she was gaining sympathy, responded with practiced sorrow. Unfortunately, Your Honor, I seem to attract men who use me and then discard me when I become inconvenient. I've had several relationships that ended badly. Relationships where I had to seek legal remedy because these men caused me significant emotional harm. I've learned to document everything now to protect myself from predators who see women as disposable. Judge Judy's next question seemed innocent. How many times have you had to seek this legal remedy? Ashley answered with something that sounded almost like pride. A few times, Your Honor, maybe 5 or 6 situations where I had to stand up for myself through the court system. I've learned that women have to protect themselves and demand accountability from men who damage them. The courtroom fell into silence. Judge Judy reached beneath her bench and pulled out a thick folder. Ashley's smirk faltered as she watched Judge Judy open it with the precision of a surgeon. Miss Morgan, I took the liberty of reviewing your legal history across multiple jurisdictions. Would you like to revise your statement about how many times you've sued former romantic partners? Ashley's voice came out smaller. I'm not sure what you mean, Your Honor. Judge Judy's smile was colder than a February morning in Alaska. According to court records from 3 different states, you have filed lawsuits against 7 different men in the past 5 years. 7 lawsuits, Miss Morgan. Each one claiming emotional damage. Each relationship lasting between 2 and 4 months. Each defendant a successful professional with substantial income. Each case settled out of court. Would you like to explain this pattern to me? The color drained from Ashley's face as the audience erupted in shocked murmurs. Judge Judy wasn't finished. The total settlements from these 7 cases amount to $247,000. That's nearly $250,000 you've collected. From men you dated for a combined total of less than 2 years. This isn't emotional damage, Miss Morgan. This is a business model. Ashley's designer confidence shattered. Her hands trembled as she reached for her water glass. Her perfectly applied makeup beginning to streak as panic set in. Your Honor, those relationships were real. I was genuinely hurt in every single one of those situations. Just because I've been unlucky in love doesn't mean my pain isn't valid. Her voice had lost all its earlier condescension, replaced by the desperate pleading of someone watching their entire scheme collapse in real time. Judge Judy's response was surgical in its precision. Unlucky in love? Let's examine your luck, shall we? She pulled out a sheet of paper and began reading dates and amounts with the efficiency of an accountant auditing a fraudulent tax return. 2019. David Patterson, software executive, dated 3 months, sued for $35,000, claiming he promised to support your acting career. Settled for $20,000. 2020. Robert Williams, investment banker, dated 2 months. Sued for $40,000, claiming he caused you to quit your job to focus on your relationship. Settled for $25,000. 2021. James Foster, medical device sales, dated for months. Sued for $50,000. Claiming he destroyed your mental health, settled for $35,000. The list continued, each entry following the same mathematical formula of targeted vulnerability, manufactured dependency, documented promises, and profitable settlements. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as Judge Judy methodically destroyed every shred of Ashley's credibility. Each case showed the identical pattern: successful men, short relationships, emotional damage claims, out-of-court settlements that cost less than fighting the accusations. But what sealed Ashley's fate wasn't just the pattern of lawsuits. It was what Judge Judy revealed next. Miss Morgan, here's what's particularly interesting about your string of unfortunate relationships. You claim these settlements were compensation for genuine emotional trauma that left you unable to work. Yet, according to your tax returns, which I subpoenaed 3 days ago, you reported this income to the IRS as consulting fees. You've been paying taxes on emotional damage settlements as if they were business revenue. Ashley's face went from pale to absolutely ashen. The courtroom erupted in gasps as the implications sank in. She hadn't just been running a scam, she had been reporting her scam to the federal government as legitimate income. Judge Judy leaned forward, her voice carrying absolute moral authority. "Show me your taxes, Miss Morgan," Ashley stammered. "I don't have them with me, Your Honor." "I do." According to the Internal Revenue Service, you reported $180,000 in settlement income over the past 3 years, categorized as consulting fees for relationship advisory services. You even took business deductions for your dating app subscriptions, your wardrobe, and your therapy sessions. You've been running a business, Miss Morgan, the business of fraud. Ashley broke completely. The designer sunglasses came off, revealing eyes streaming with genuine tears for the first time. Her Louis Vuitton purse dropped to the floor. Her voice came out in broken sobs. "Please, Your Honor, I was just trying to survive. Dating is expensive. Men make promises they don't keep. I was just holding them accountable." Judge Judy's response was delivered with cold finality. "Survive. You've made nearly $250,000 targeting vulnerable men who were guilty of nothing more than believing you were capable of genuine emotion. You weaponized the court system. You weaponized real trauma that real victims experience. You turned emotional abuse claims into a profit center while making it harder for actual victims to be believed." Michael Chen watched with an expression of vindication mixed with heartbreak. Judge Judy turned to him gently. "Mr. Chen, you are a victim of a calculated fraud scheme. This woman identified you as a target based on your vulnerability, manipulated you with practiced precision, and attempted to profit from your genuine emotions. I am so sorry this happened to you." The ruling came swift and devastating. Case dismissed with prejudice. Mr. Chen is awarded $5,000 in damages plus $8,000 in legal fees, total of $13,000 to be paid by Miss Morgan. Furthermore, I am referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for investigation into a pattern of fraud that may constitute criminal behavior. Furthermore, I am referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for investigation into a pattern of fraud that may constitute criminal behavior. Miss Morgan, you are a predator who has weaponized genuine victims' experiences for personal profit. Your pattern of behavior shows premeditation, calculation, and a complete lack of remorse. This court finds your claims entirely without merit and potentially criminal in nature. The gavel came down with a crack that sounded like Ashley's entire world splitting in half. She was escorted from the courtroom, sobbing uncontrollably, her designer heels stumbling, her constructed image destroyed as thoroughly as the lives she had damaged. Within hours, the clip went viral. "Show me your taxes" became a meme, a hashtag, a cultural moment. Ashley deleted her social media as thousands of comments flooded her accounts. News outlets picked up the story. Legal experts discussed the case. Dating forums erupted with men sharing similar experiences. The aftermath was swift. The district attorney opened a formal investigation. 3 previous settlement recipients came forward with evidence of similar manipulation. A class action discussion began. Michael Chen became an advocate for men targeted by relationship fraud. Dating apps implemented new verification and fraud detection systems. Ashley Morgan's life unraveled. Her apartment was lost. Her car was repossessed. The IRS launched an audit, questioning years of income reporting. Worst of all, she faced potential criminal charges as her lawsuits were re-examined as evidence of a long-running fraudulent enterprise. Judge Judy's handling of the case became legendary. Taught in law schools as an example of how patterns expose fraud. "Show me your taxes" became shorthand for demanding proof when a story seemed too convenient, too practiced, too profitable. This case proved that justice still exists, that scammers get caught, and that when authorities dig deeper, predators who game the system eventually meet their reckoning. Ashley Morgan thought she'd found the perfect loophole. Instead, she found Judge Judy, and those 4 words changed everything.